Hello everyone, my name is Aarti and I work in the corporate team at Connect4. I have my colleague Aishwarya with me here as well. On the behalf of the Connect4 team, I would like to thank you all for joining in for this webinar. And we hope to discuss and touch upon the approach towards volunteering in this financial year from 2021 to 2022. Before we begin, I would like to remind the participants to be on mute during the session to avoid any kind of background noise to interfere the ongoing session. However, if you have any question, you can put that in the chat section, and we will be addressing those at the end of the webinar in a quick Q&A session. However, if there are any questions that remain unanswered, please feel free to add it to the feedback form that we share at the end. We will try and address it offline and revert to you. Also, as many of you all must be aware, Connect4 is a volunteering platform, and we match and connect volunteers to different NGOs based on time and skill preferences. And we are partnered with about 500 plus NGOs all across India. And we work across 12 cause verticals. Apart from this, we also organize individual and group volunteering engagements for corporate organizations, keeping in mind the preferences of our stakeholders. Moving on, we truly appreciate that corporate organizations are looking ahead at a brighter future in the fight against COVID with the help of CSR, COVID relief programs, etc. While they have the willingness to do it, we also few of the corporate organizations also require assistance in smoothly transitioning into the dynamic trends that are coming up at this point of time in employee volunteering and the social space. In India, mandatory CSR has encouraged companies to look beyond the financial performance and equally emphasize on social and environmental responsibilities. This new mandate has evolved and looked at a new approach towards CSR as a whole, guiding the companies to strategically create social impact. Through this webinar, we aim to discuss for some tough as well as unaddressed questions through the perspective of CSR and volunteering. I will take this opportunity to introduce you all to our panelists. We have Shireen Ali, who with us, who has an experience of about more than 15 years now. Presently responsible for leading the Pune CSR function of WNS Global Services, including CSR strategies, identifying and planning and execution of CSR engagements at WNS. Next up, we have Mini Bhargav, who is the Chief of Collaborations and MIS at Etasha Society, an NGO that works towards empowering low-income communities by skilling them to be more employable in a changing world. Mini headed their placement division for many years and is now managing the employee engagement program, collaborations as well as MIS division at Etasha. Lastly, we have Tilak Chaudhary, who is the Deputy General Manager of Corporate Communications and is a part of the CSR committee at Aegis India. He has around 20 years of experience in advertising, communications, and CSR. He has experience of working in leading international brands like Aegis, Jubilant, Mahindra's, Indian Oil, Ambuja Cements, Taj Group of Hotels, etc. Thank you all. Thank you, panelists, for joining the session today. I'll quickly dive into the questions and to the topic of discussion today. So before we started off with the webinar, we were discussing how the pandemic has changed our lives. But what about virtual? Like, what about volunteering? How has that changed in your organizations? Tilak, how would you?
the pandemic has done a very interesting thing, not necessarily good, but it's an interesting thing is that a lot of things have got digital, and a lot of things have got merged. Like for example, CSR, which earlier used to be a standalone, department, now it has got employer branding, and it has got employee engagement also getting connected to it. The reason being, a lot of employees now feel that they're very privileged and fortunate to be survived and alive in this pandemic, so they want to contribute back to the society, but they don't know how to do it. At the same time, the corporates feel that if there are these engagement programs, or if there are CSR programs done, it kind of helps them show uh, a human face for themselves. It makes them more human. So because there is so much of presence for corporates and individuals who are also professionals on the digital platforms and social media, it kind of magnifies. So now, because of this phenomenon, and since we are all going digital, I see a huge interest for people coming forward to do volunteering, saying, if there's a way to do something on the digital platforms, we would love to do it. And also, I see a lot of management teams encouraging it, saying that it's good because it helps us show a human face. Earlier we did a lot of things which never got noticed, but now that we are doing it, it kind of gets noticed, and it kind of helps us say that at the end of it, we are there with everyone. So that's a positive change I see.
Yeah, I completely agree to that. Shireen, what's your take on it?
Yeah. So, hi everybody. It's lovely to have so many people join in and discuss volunteerism, which is like something that is ingrained in every human being. And like Tilak very rightly mentioned, like that organizations are not only are they encouraging even the volunteers, especially the new millennials. Everybody is interested, like how do we contribute to the society. And if we go specific to, like Aarti said, if we go specific to the pandemic situation and volunteerism, in an organization, I mean, in any kind of a job, a person is working for that particular job, but he's got multiple skills that, he's in his personal life, multiple skills and hobbies, which also needs a vent. And these volunteering opportunities, especially where you can make a positive impact on the society, that is something that is like it gives way for volunteers to showcase and to do something which they love and which is close to their heart. And one thing good about I mean the positive side about the pandemic and the sudden change where we could do things from the comfort of our home. We could not only work, we could not only do the housework, which is also a great volunteering activity for everybody. Like people have started learning how to make rotis, and they've started learning how to do the swapping and sweeping. Apart from that, you also get a huge platform online where you can start reaching out to people through the digital mode, getting your skills to reach out to other people and making that kind of a difference, which was probably not possible otherwise. So the pandemic somehow has given the volunteering edge a very good a very good a new dimension, I would say. And and like we say, like yeah, when the times are tough, the tough get going, like so I mean, that is how we need to become resilient. And especially just to quote a small example, like for us, like in my organization WNS, when everything had just closed down, when even the CSR activities had taken a complete full stop, all the volunteers who were initially attached with the CSR volunteering stepped out into the society with small things like feeding the poor, taking care of street dogs, helping the aged to go and get medicine. Some people even went out to the communities with all the the all the norms, and distributed sanitary equipment and medical. So the volunteers really did not stop. Like when the pandemic came in, they did not stop, and that kept you know uh, it kept rippling. Like I would say, you know, when you throw a stone in the lake, the ripples reach, and that is how the volunteering reach. So, I mean, that is a positive side we see, and it's like a good side.
Just to add to what Shireen said, there's a very nice book I read recently called Life's Amazing Secret. It's by Gaur Gopal Das. He talks. He's one of the most famous monks of our time. He's from ISKCON, and he says that there are four wheels on which our life is balanced, and one of those wheels is what we give back to the society. So that has been the part of Indian culture. That has been the part of Indian heritage. So it's good that people are looking at it, rediscovering it, and looking at giving back as a way of life. That's very positive.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think this point of time, like during the pandemic, a lot of people realize that you need to be more social. You need to understand what others are facing, and you need to be a small part of it. Like even if your contribution is really small, it makes a difference. So I think that made a lot of, like, we also saw a lot of corporates reaching out to us who did not have volunteering as such as a main something that they used to look at really, really. But from the last year, they have started like they have started employee engagements as well. Mini, I would like to hear your perspective as an NGO. How did the pandemic affect y'all? How did y'all come out of it? Like are coming out of it? Everyone is.
Yeah, we were all struggling with coming out of it. True. But just to take you, give you a kind of a context here. Even before the pandemic, we were getting some virtual volunteering happening, where international volunteers would do virtual work for us. But that was very minimal, and that was a long-term process that we were doing. But suddenly, pandemic gave us a huge opportunity to reach out to people who were far and widespread across the country, and had huge expertise in their line and in their work, and the knowledge to give back to the society. So it was great to be connected, to get connected to them through maybe volunteering platforms like Connect 4, or directly with the corporates like Tata and Accenture that we've been working for so many years, or individual volunteers who through the website reached out to us. Um, Also, as both Tilak and Sharon both have shared, is that to do good is inbuilt in the Indian person's nature. But somewhere that was getting kind of backstaged, or getting the less priority. But suddenly the pandemic, and looking the situation, looking at people fighting and not being able to strive and get two ends meet, there was a huge surge of volunteers who wanted, and who somehow, I would say, who needed to give back to the society, not just wanted to. So hence it led to a lot of committed, serious volunteering, which if I talk about as an NGO, to begin with, when we did struggle a bit about having virtual volunteering opportunities to offer to the volunteers, but we designed the whole plan for volunteering in such a way where a lot of our assignments were almost all of our assignments actually were virtual, whether it was direct impact with the beneficiaries or the team capacity building, it was working on the MISs and the processes, or just strategy building for social marketing, and becoming champions to support our cause. So all this actually led also to the use of technology, which being an NGO, we weren't, okay, Tasha was to some extent was pretty tech savvy, but then it also got down to us realizing that we needed to upskill. And that was another big piece that we used our volunteers, and volunteers were more than happy to help do capacity building and upskill for in terms of IT and other processes. So overall, I would say pandemic did have a huge effect, which was very, very positive in bringing volunteers committed to do the work that they wanted to do, and which helped NGOs scale the work and the variety of volunteers, where they came with dedicated time, commitment, seriousness, and the planning from our side was mostly the assignment, planned deliverables, and timelines, which helped get a lot of value from volunteers during this time. And we're hoping to continue to get it.
Definitely. I think during like last year or from the from the onset of the pandemic, a lot of volunteers started doing like some NGOs were doing remote volunteering, but this led to people like actually being there in that situation. A lot of NGOs started upskilling their staff as well, even kids or even the beneficiaries for that matter, training them for volunteering, like for these engagements, volunteering engagements also. And they started working remotely fully, like virtually. So that is something that was
I would like
really
to
good.
add there, Aarti, just to take that thought process a little forward is, during the last year, we actually conducted a lot of webinars and interactive sessions. We were doing a lot of physical interactive sessions where volunteers would come to our center and do some talk, to pep up the trainees, maybe interview skills, or maybe how to handle the world of work scenario and challenges that you face. But that did not stop. So during the pandemic, we had lots of webinars and interactive sessions, and our trainees would come back and say, "Ma'am, when are we next having a webinar of that sort?" So yeah, I think it was all win-win for us.
I think it was more of a mental block that things need to be physically done. Now that we are already
exactly
doing a virtual, living in a virtual world, I think we need to really reconsider what is must to be physically done and what is must be what can be done virtually. So
yeah
that realization has to come, and it can change the way we do a lot of volunteering going forward.
yeah that brings me to the next question. So what do you think should be the approach towards volunteering that like corporates or NGOs should look at post the pandemic? Like I know this is something that is here to stay and like people are getting used to it, but once things get back to normal, this is me saying this optimistically that things will get back to normal. But once things do, how do you all think? Like a lot of corporates have that opinion that there should be a mix of both. But I would like to hear from you all as well. Shireen, what will be your take on this?
Yeah, so I mean the kind of trends that we are seeing, and even we were discussing just before the call that uh, this this has happened for a reason, because we as humans had started becoming very very irresponsible in the way we were dealing with the resources that were provided by nature. So there was some kind of a reset which is happening, and we have to understand that this is happening and this will bring about a change. It's not that we're going to go back to the same times like when we were doing what we were doing before the pandemic. And during the pandemic, so again I will quote one example from what how we rose to the occasion. What WNS did is that, considering that this is the pandemic where people have been tied up at home, and the best thing is to sit at home and work from home. So what we did is we introduced a program. So by the time we reeled out of the pressure from the March, April, and like around May, we rolled out a program where the trainers of our organization, so all the trainers from every process, they build up small teams of 4 to 5 people, and we created courses so that we could run it for the unemployed youth, especially the unemployed youth who are coming from the marginalized background. And believe it, we trained about 900 students last year. So from about June till about January, February, we trained 900 students in the simple courses like finance and accounting, customer interactive services, where they became, completely ready to just get into a job. It's not like, that you're doing it, you're studying, and then there's that industry gap, that okay, I finished my BCom, and now what? How do I get into an interview? So we gave them that bridge of, the education and the job. So it was so satisfying. And when we actually go back for feedbacks, the students, set of students came out with fantastic feedback. But the feedback which came from the trainers who acted as volunteers, that was like, heartwarming, because they said that, we felt like we were actually giving wheels to vehicles, like, we were actually making people move towards the direction where they could go without any being affected by any of the current circumstances. So, so that is what, that is what resilience is, the main ingredient right now. We need to look at what does the society need. Like, we cannot now, with the changing times, and like Arti, I'm again mentioning that, things will change. We're not going to get back to where we were. Things are going to change, and they're going to move forward in a different direction. So we need to foresee that direction. We need to understand, like, what was going wrong and what do we need to correct. So that is the path we need to take, and we need to start moving on that direction, so that everything resets. And of course, everything has got that curve, like, it rises and drops. So that is where we are heading to. And it's wonderful that luckily in this century, where people are already educated, people are already cognizant of the fact that, it is not about one human growing as an individual. It's about the society. It's about, like, uh, um, uh, coexisting, I would say. It's not only about human beings, it's coexisting with the entire universe. So, whether it be maybe trees or rivers or animals or insects, whatever, we need to learn how to coexist with them. And this is a good time where people have evolved in their minds. And now with this coming up, I'm sure when we look at a road further, we will see a lot of good decisions going into the kind of volunteering that we'll do, and the kind of changes that we are looking to make in the society. Yeah, yeah, Preeti.
That's true. And Tilak, what do you think? How will things change? How will things change in the volunteering sector? And how are things? What will be the approach? Like, what do you think should be the ideal approach?
See, the ideal approach should be, going forward somewhere we should be able to go 100% virtual, but that will not happen overnight. It's going to be a process. It's going to take its time where your physical interactions will come down and your virtual interactions will go up, increasing the quantity and the quality of the interactions. For example, if you look at an MD of a company taking a session with young graduates, physical session becomes more difficult, whereas if you do a virtual session, sparing 10 minutes from his time coming in front of a screen is much easier than traveling 2 hours to for a 10-minute meeting. So, quality of the interactions will go up. Secondly, people, if they're traveling less and they're able to just come sit next to a computer and talk to a whole world of people, your quantity will also go up. More and more people will be interested in doing that. Besides, a lot of companies and a lot of countries are talking about becoming carbon neutral by 2050. So if we are to follow that, we'll have to reduce our vehicle usage. We'll have to reduce our, flight usage. We have to reduce, we have to start taking more eco-friendly transportation. So keeping all that in mind, I think the way forward is going to be, the aim should be that we should go 100% virtual, but it will depend. It can't be like a rule. It has to be a very company specific thing. But ideal is that we go virtual fully. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it will happen. Your technologies will become so strong that you will probably have those 3D technologies and machine learning and things like that, where you'll probably be sitting here and you will be virtually transported into a classroom where you are in a virtual class with other people. They're, I think, already trying to do that with exhibitions, where you can have a stall, a virtual stall, and you can go and
Yeah.
walk like you do a normal this. So I'm sure, when things get more advanced and when things get more cheaper, technologies like this will be implemented in volunteering also, to give you a world class, actual feeling of being in a class without being there. So it will actually go towards that direction, I feel, and I think it should go because it will help save a lot of resources. And right now, a lot of corporates don't want to commit too much of resources because ultimately, making profit is and answering to their stakeholders is their main responsibility. But when this happens, they'll be able to, spend more of their resources in doing volunteering. So I think it's a good positive trend if it goes good.
Maybe, Tilak, what I think is maybe there will be a balance struck, like, that what is required on field only will happen on field, so that there's not unnecessarily, like,
Yeah, I mean, the ideal situation is you go completely virtual.
Yeah.
But I don't think that will happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. No, so such things like, maybe water conservation or medical facilities or those kind of volunteerism may require people to actually go and get in touch. But things like education and skill development and stuff like that can stay on virtual. So that balance can be struck.
Some of these things can be done immediately. Some of the volunteering can be immediately done online or virtually, but some of will take some time, and probably maybe another 5-10 years you'll find everything will virtual. I think we'll start living in a virtual cave, all of us.
I know.
I think I agree to Shireen as well. Like some volunteering engagements, you will require like something like a tree plantation drive. You will have to go on field. But the one thing that I agree to Tilak is that you virtually you can reach out to a lot more people than you could have done earlier.
Example of tree plantation. Okay, let's say 3 people are planting the trees. In a real situation, you'll have probably 5 volunteers standing around and clapping. Now imagine you're doing this virtually. You plant 3 people are planting the trees, and you have cameras and you're broadcasting it to the world. I can have people from Iceland joining in. I can have people from France joining in. I can have people from anywhere coming in, joining in, and cheering.
Becoming a part of the event.
Just imagine the kind of positivity that it will generate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Completely agree to that as well. Minnie, what's your take on this? How do you think volunteering should be from your perspective? Like, what do you think? What is good for NGOs also?
Yeah, I resonate both their thoughts there. Though I have a little bent towards Cheryl, because being an NGO where a lot of our work does require people to go into the community, meet people, mentor people in that sense, which right now with the pandemic and the virtual volunteering is not happening. And the other struggle that we face in virtual volunteering is availability of infrastructure. The slum colonies or the not so privileged people do not have the access to maybe a mobile smartphone with data pack, or may just have one phone in the family. So even taking classes or taking sessions or connecting with a mentor to connect and talk to that mentor becomes very, very difficult, and it's very challenging. But all said and done, I am also a person who would like to have a mix of virtual volunteering and physical interaction. So where we've gained a lot of value in the last year from virtual volunteering, we want to continue to get that, but there were a few things that we felt amiss, where we had volunteers coming in groups and we would do rallies in the community. We would do Nukkad Natak to do awareness building, which right now is not happening, which is very needed in the communities that we are working in, where little things like, they get scared of the pandemic or the COVID situation, and they don't know what to do and how to do it. We being educated, we being having the access to a lot of media and information, maybe some of them is fake, but at least we have it, and we can go back and Google and search for the validity of the information. But the communities, the rural areas and the semi-rural areas and the slum and the underprivileged communities actually do not have the access, where the only way to reach out and inform and awareness building can happen physically. So that seemed a miss there. So
I would like to
Yeah,
ask you that.
please, Tilak.
All that you said is basically a hurdle right now. Let's imagine a situation where all these hurdles that you're talking about, like technology is taken care of, connectivity is taken care of, instruments are taken care of. Then if a world is like that, where everyone is connected, because the way mobile connectivity is growing, maybe another 10 years you will have that kind of connectivity all across India. Then what is the situation that you will talk about?
Okay, so I was just about to come to that point, Tilak, was that there's also a feel good factor for the volunteers, which many times in the virtual volunteering does not happen, or may not happen to that extent as it would happen otherwise. And I've actually seen it, pre-COVID times where we had volunteers coming, visiting the center or going into the community, meeting people and the community people, the families of our beneficiaries. The experience that they took back actually was an eye opener for them, which in turn made them realize and respect the people in the community, and then again give back more than what they were earlier giving back. So it wasn't just volunteering with us, then it went on to fundraising and becoming champions to the cause. So that is one point where I feel is a miss in the virtual world. If the technology can grow to that extent where we can take it to the last mile, I'm more than happy to live with the virtual world. But there is a little human connect that we all are missing. And whether it's not just the volunteering, it was also the way we are working right now. I know I'm taking a little time, but I'll just get back and say, even within the team, we have regular team meetings, monthly team meetings, regular connects within the team and everything. But there's one element that's missing where we all, do complain about is, "Kash hum aapko dekh sakte." I mean, I'm seeing you. I'm seeing the whole lot together, and I'm seeing people from Kanyakumari and Iceland and across the world. But that human connect of eye to eye connect, which we were all living and which we all wanted to have,
And that's
somehow.
I agree.
And I would just draw your attention to that movie Munna by MBBS, where Jadoo Ka Jappi. So that somehow solves a lot of problems.
On a lighter note, if you're working with Amazon and if you're working with which is the other company, Tesla, you'll have a tough time getting the bosses physically, because they're all planning to go to space, and they're now having a new war about who's going to space first. They're all going to Mars, so we'll probably have to use virtual then.
I'm sure in Mars also they will try and have a party,
Surely
they
would.
can sit together.
We'll have a chance to go to Mars then.
Yeah, but so I think maybe the baseline would be a perfect, a balance where wherever what is required, like especially for healing and for any psychological problems, or that is where you will need human interaction,
A little human.
personal, and then wherever there is learning and there is teaching and learning and stuff like that, that can still be on virtual. So at least you will avoid all that kind of the rush and those heavy traffics and all you can avoid. The people who are required to be on the field can be there. People who can sit from home can sit from home. So that may be a good balance. Yeah.
I would like to add one more thing, because the part of the question was also how the corporates can help post-pandemic. During the pandemic right now, even the CSR, not just the CSR, the whole company, the corporates have become very conscious of volunteering, where regular monitoring, support, and reporting and reviews of the volunteers' assignment and the NGO's work is reported on a regular basis. That's one thing I found very, very fruitful. And I would say that's something we should carry on, and that should become a practice, and should be an SOP across volunteering and CSR, because that has added a lot of value, me speaking from NGO, taking, seeing the values that the volunteers have added to us.
Definitely.
That was one
Definitely.
point I would have, yeah.
Yeah. Also, from ConnectForce perspective, I would say that we have seen different organizations who have just begun with volunteering, and that's when I agree with Minnie that people who used to who used to volunteer for the first time and go on ground and see beneficiaries, meet beneficiaries, these were the people who used to volunteer again because of the sense of satisfaction, because you see how volunteering is, how like you can see the effect on the beneficiary there and there itself. So you're obviously virtual volunteering is something that is reaching to a lot of people, but there is still a blurry wall in between where you don't really know what's happening. So yeah, hoping that going forward there will be a balance of both virtual as
Balance
well
is
as
very
physical.
balance is very important.
Balance should be met. Yes. Okay. Moving on to my next question. Shirin, what is the effect of the new CSR amendment on volunteering or on the budgets? What is the change of approach? Tilak, either of you all can answer this.
Actually, as far as my knowledge goes, I don't think there's any major change in terms of the budget. I think it is still 5% of the total money that can be spent on the time or the resources that the company engages. But having said that, I think with the new volunteering means coming, like digital and this, the opportunity is that the whatever 5% can be optimized. So, for example, if I was spending 3 days of man days of physical volunteering, now that I'm doing it online, I can probably use those 3 days more fruitfully and reach out to more people. So, in a way, it is still the same. The law has not changed, but it has affected due to our circumstances that maybe it has a bigger impact. That's how I would like to look at it.
I think one more thing, Tilak, is that apart from pure volunteering, there may be projects which are designed by a corporate, which volunteering is ingrained in that. So
Yes.
then that becomes like part of the project cost. So maybe that can be taken, but like you said, Tilak, there's not much of a change in the volunteering, the budgets as such, and it will remain the same unless there
I
is there
completely
is
agree
some
with you.
major this with the digitization and with the additional tools required where so physical work for a volunteer may be free of cost, so I can go and clean up a school and come back free of cost for my this thing. But if I have to use some kind of a digital equipment, or if I have to use some kind of a um, uh, a virtual a virtual job that has to be taken, then maybe there will be some nuances which may add on to the volunteering aspect. So that and I think somebody over here is from KPMG also. So maybe that can go into the project cost as far as I think.
Okay. Uh, okay. Moving on to the next question. What are your views on allocating like CSR budgets towards COVID relief or disaster relief? Because last year, a lot of organizations did that. They spent a budget of theirs on COVID relief or PM cares. So, what is your take on that, Shireen
Uh,
Tilak?
Yeah,
this question.
Tilak you can go. Yeah.
Okay. See, it's like it's always nice to have a certain part of your budget allocated for contingencies, because there will be something or the other. We saw the Nepal crisis that happened. We saw the Kerala floods that happened. There are so many things. Uttarakhand, there was this the melting of the glaciers. So something or the other is going to happen. So it's not just COVID. Maybe a certain amount of money, if we can put it in a fund which is reserved for this kind of crisis, it can always help. If it's not, if there's no crisis, with God's grace, no crisis happens, that fund can be, put back into the other projects, or it can be easily given to PM fund, because that's an option that's already given to us. So it's nice to have that kind of allocation because you never know when it might come handy.
So for me, I'll have a slightly different take on that, Tilak, because sometimes what happens is like, contributing to a larger fund, you really do not have any like visibility into what's happening. But when you are working with communities around you, when you are working with NGOs, specific NGOs, you're working with community, you know exactly what is the impact which is coming out of your investment. So somehow that gives you more like more benefit. So for example, in a condition like pandemic, okay, where even though it was a sudden hit on the face where nobody had expected that, but still we could route money into medical supplies. We could route money into like the same communities whom we were working with. We could route like sanitations for them, giving them immediate relief, educating them about what it is, how should you take care of it, conducting some kind of small medical camps, giving them opening. So money spent like that in your own community gives you immediate.
No, Shri,
So
what I mean is when you're
yeah.
saying that, you're routing certain amount of money to this. So when you're routing that money, where are you getting that money from? Because you've
Yeah,
already.
so yeah, you're right, you're right. Yeah, so we do like, and I think I mean it has always happened that like every year there is some major like the Chennai floods happened, and then like there was an earthquake. So every year there is some huge thing that happens where the CSR needs to turn their focus on. And I think most of the companies do keep that kind of a contingency, like that in case there is a major thing. Of course, PM relief fund is the like the easiest and the most authentic way, where you can just give and say, okay, like this is what I contribute. Apart from that, I feel like if it is diverted into through the NGOs, especially, I feel if it's diverted into this communities, somehow there is a lot of
Completely agree with you.
change.
All I'm saying is that when you're planning,
Yeah,
maybe a certain amount of it could be kept aside for contingency, which
right.
later, if unused, can be found back to whichever. It could be
Absolutely,
your
absolutely,
projects, it could be PM fund, it could be
absolutely.
anything. But unless you have that contingency money, if you have
Yeah.
already committed all the money, then you won't have any extra budget to
Yeah. No, no. So that I think most of the companies, at least as far as I'm concerned, I mean, most of the companies do keep a contingency fund, like, I don't know the percentage, but usually we do come out with a large amount, like, if there is something happening, in India, especially, we do divert the funds, but diverting, I'm saying the diverting agencies are what matter, that, how well it is being used.
like
Yeah.
for the Nepal disaster. I remember we worked with a French NGO called Maintendu. They help us coordinate with a lot of NGOs which are local NGOs. So they came to us and we requested our employees to contribute something. So what the management said is whatever the employees contributed, we will put 50%
Will match
more
it.
than that. So if they gave 50 rupees, we will add 50 rupees and we'll contribute.
Take it.
So we did it that way, and that money came from the additional contingency fund that we had.
Absolutely. So exactly when the Chennai flood had happened, exactly what we did is some schools had flown away. So the same thing, like the employee contributions and the company
We did
contributions,
that for the
and we
Kerala
built
one
about three
also.
schools. Like yeah. We actually constructed them.
Yeah,
So
because
so yeah,
Nepal is one of our markets. Kerala is one of our very important markets. Uttarakhand, when that glacier melted, we were
yeah.
hired for making helipads in those areas. So these are very important markets for us, and it's very we need to be very
Absolutely necessary
careful
to do
and
it.
take
Yeah.
care of these markets. So we need to be ready when
Yeah.
anything happens.
I hope we are answering your question, Aarti. I mean, that is what I want to
Definitely.
find.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Okay. Moving on, what are the ways in which employee volunteerism could help during this time, like or in a pandemic or a disaster also? So how can, like, now currently as well, like, people want to help, but how do they help? Like, how can employee volunteering be tied into all of this?
Uh,
Uh,
I think uh, the way we can do it is, being a little more proactive, uh, understanding, having a list of, the interested people who can do what. Like, for example, if today we have a crisis, if we today go back and start asking people, what can you do? How can you help? It doesn't help. So if there are people,
Hmm.
if HR has a database saying, 20 people want to say take online classes, 20 people want to support their vehicles and probably transport people. So if we have this database and the kind of resources we have at our disposal, it's easier to plan during the time of contingency. So then you don't waste important man hours planning what is to be done. So you're ready with a solution because you know what exactly you have and what you can offer.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. So Tilak, I would also like to add on that, like, as soon as the pandemic set in, then the volunteers started resilience. They started themselves volunteering for other purposes, but then the company immediately created three platforms. So what we did is, because the sudden pandemic, everybody went online. They went virtual, digital. So the cyber security became a major problem, right? So we immediately created a platform where we wanted to then teach, especially the young, the students and the parents and the youth, that what are the potential dangers. So we created a platform, gave it to our volunteers, saying that this is how you can spread it, like, so they got a platform to start working on immediately. So as of date, I think we've covered more than 3 lakh students, just teaching them. We've got a platform, a portal. The child goes, they go, and they go through the video and the quiz, and they get certified. So that is one platform. And then I told you, we created another platform for training youth, for upskilling them. So immediately the volunteers who were interested, training teams, they came up, they picked up the batches, picked up the courses. And so creating platforms for volunteering also becomes a major, like, a yardstick for them to, like, start working from there. Because at times, of course, for every individual. So for example, if I take myself as a volunteer, I've got so many things happening right around me. My maid's children have lost their education. There are so many old people who are looking for some kind of a help to go and even get groceries or get their medicine.
Hmm.
So there are so many things that I can still do. But if I get a platform created by the organization, I can probably volunteer there also.
Another
Definitely.
thing I would like to add is that mostly we do a lot of risk analysis for a lot of our internal processes. Whereas when we do, support NGOs or when we support any other body, we don't do any risk analysis for them. And it should be done because they don't have the kind of resources to do that on their own. Like, for example, we were supporting shelter for children. Now, what could happen to them in case of a pandemic? They wouldn't have a clue. But if we are able to plan that as part of risk, that these are the risks that they can be subjected to if there's a pandemic that recurs, we would be in a better position to think of solutions. We'll be in a better position to guide them. Even if we are not physically doing it, we can actually guide them. We can give them ideas as to how it can be, and we have, with our resources, we can make it happen. But it's very important to understand where the risk can happen, where the necessity can come.
Yeah, definitely. Even from the Connect Pause point of view, like we were in contact with a lot of NGOs, and that's when we realized that for them to move into a physical setup was very difficult, and that's when a lot of our corporates helped in strategy planning as well, explaining, like letting people, organizations, and people who were team leaders uh, or who were managers of different teams, they helped out here to setting up strategies, to setting up ways in which they can function rightly during this time. So that can also be a way of helping out. Mini, what's your take on this?
Actually, I'm hearing all of you. I just kept nodding because I agree to all the points. Because the one thing the NGOs, as Tilak very rightly said, is we are so involved in doing the ground level work that we are doing. Many a times the risk factors or looking at what the challenges as a whole, the country may come up with, or things like pandemic or disaster may hit us, what to do then? And that's where, yes, I agree that the corporates can help build those strategies and make people and the NGOs and the teams aware of what to do next and what to and when to do it. So that, because ultimately it is the NGOs working at the ground level who will take it there, and who will be connected and will be taking the last mile, walk the last mile there. So I think, and the pandemic actually gave us this opportunity to see the amazing changes that took place, which basically was from virtual volunteering, where people felt it's a good feel good element, to more committed work, and to give back to the society in a larger sense, where the commitment was longer, was more deeply insinuated, and was also very NGO need driven. Earlier, most of the physical volunteering, I mean, that's my take on it. I may be wrong on it, is mostly the volunteers came to volunteer for themselves, to make themselves feel good about what they were giving back. Whereas, the whole change and the mindset change that happened after this was, they started reaching out to say, what do you need us to do? And the corporates and even the volunteering platforms actually reached out to the NGOs to say, you tell us what you need us to do, and we'll get you the experts within the organization to come and do it. Because luckily it was virtual. So they, as Tilak earlier had said, a manager or a management person or a director from a company could just take out 10 minutes and virtually do something, or just do a pep-up talk. So that is something that we are looking forward, and we would like it to continue, where the corporates can contribute in that sense. That's one huge ask that an NGO has. And I'm sure I speak for all. I mean, I don't know, can I be a spokesperson for all the NGOs here? But that's something that we always look forward from corporates and individual volunteers to come back and ask us what you need, and we'll get you. Rather than saying, we want to do this, you create an opportunity for us. So that kind of a scenario can be created, and a win-win platform can be built within the corporate CSR and the NGO partners. I think that will be a wonderful world to live in.
Yeah, definitely. It should be the other way around, understanding the NGO's requirements and then building on to that.
Because somewhere, sorry, Aarti, I'm just kind of cutting. Because somewhere, it's a marketing Ramvan, what do you say? वो है कि customers the king, and customers' needs are the most utmost. So when
I would like to say that corporates are more used to doing these kind of analysis, so they can do it much easier. Like, for example, the shelter that we are supporting, it has about 80 to 90 children, who are they're staying there. Basic thing, like, what if they don't get supply for 10 days? How will they manage? So is there a storehouse? Is there a fridge or a cold storage which is long enough to have milk and fruits and basic things for the children? So I don't think the NGO has thought of that. But because as outsiders, because we are not, we are having a bird's eye view of the whole thing, because we are not in it, we can look at it and we can say, okay, maybe you need to do that. And buying a bigger fridge doesn't cost any money, but maybe they have not thought of it. Because maybe they think that it'll
that's what Tilak, I began with that, where I said I do agree with you, because having a different perspective because corporates have a larger world of experience, where NGOs, I started with, since we are working at the ground level, we are our site may be a little too short for that matter. So we do need your expertise and your help in looking and strategizing on that.
And I'm
But
sure corporates would
yeah,
love to do that because it gives us a different perspective.
But you know what, Mini, what I mean, my
yeah,
experience is generally like, the corporates, so whichever corporate, like if it's a manufacturing company or if it's a IT company or if it's, they have their own, their own skills to contribute to the society. So they generally look at an NGO who is matching their efforts, you know. So I'll give you an example. Like, so WNS is a BPM company. It's a business process management company, and it is like, looking to make a educated society, because unless the society is educated, resources are not going to be easy to come for working that kind of companies. So generally, we look at NGOs who are in the education field, right? And then whatever the NGOs got to offer, like, be it like, what is the direction they are going in, and then we match with the NGOs, because the NGO is the one who knows the community, right? The corporate doesn't know. So we match the NGO and the mission of the company, and that's how the programs are rolled out. No, I don't know if I'm coming clear, but uh, am I answering your question, Mini? Because there is a lot of times when there is a gap between the NGO and the corporate. So I always had this feeling like, that why is it that we are not on the same page?
No, but
no, you did. Sorry,
just to add
go
to
ahead, Al.
Shireen,
Yeah.
what you're saying is perfectly right. You tend to, kind of get into corporates. Corporates tend to look for NGOs who are, in the similar kind of space. But the kind of expertise that a corporate brings and the kind of expertise that a NGO brings, if they work on it together, because they have very different competencies,
Yeah.
if they come together, it's a more wholesome experience. It's like two
Absolutely.
teams working together. It's like a HR and communication coming together. They have different core set of competencies. I have a different core set of competencies, but together we form a totally different,
Right.
more robust competencies that we bring to the table. So I think that way it can help if both the teams are working together and not just working on, not just as a transactional relationship. It's more like, when both are getting involved and trying to build something together, I think it can work much better.
So
Like,
I
I'll
think
just
we are a very good example for that, actually. Yeah. What we do is like, we work with the NGO. So the NGO's project is supported by the volunteers of the organization.
That's
So
great.
yeah, so
great, great
that's how it
work.
works.
Yeah,
That's great.
that,
Yeah.
and I think that is the point I was, Shirin, trying to make is not that I'm saying you people are not doing it, but there are many corporates who come with
Yeah.
saying we want to do this, and if you
Good.
have it, well and good. Otherwise, So that's where I'm saying if it's a little more flexible, where both the people sit on across the table and discuss what is it that you are getting and what is it that we need, and then do an amalgam and do a collaboration, is
You know,
where a
uh,
lot of work can be done.
Meaning actually, it takes all kinds to make this world. So
Yeah,
there will be different kinds of people, but as long as you are focusing on the intent, if they're having the right intent and you have the right intent, if you focus on that, I think the whole situation can be reversed and the whole situation can be worked the way you feel, for a common good or for a greater good. So it can always work that way.
Yeah. One more thing I would like to put in here, since we are already talking on this NGO, the NGO offerings. What
mhm.
I feel is, maybe the NGO should start working towards the 17th SDG. So, for
Yes,
example, yeah. So, example, if
yeah,
Tilak is saying that I am going to, donate to make a school building, Shireen will say, okay, then I will donate to, make the learning center. or I will donate to make the sports. So, if the NGOs can start working towards the 17th SDG, where they, it's because, see, of course, I know that branding is a big thing. And, like, okay, each company wants their brand to stand there and stuff like that. But somehow, if you all can, start creating those platforms that, okay, there is this section of the society which needs help, and 3 to 4 corporates having those ideas can come into this jointly and make a massive change. A single corporate may not be able to make that. Two,
Very
three
true.
people
Yeah.
can come and make it. So, if those kind of offerings are there, what happens is the corporate says, okay, I'm getting an impact. I'm getting my branding, and I'm doing things that I want to do, as well as a larger thing is happening in this thing. Like,
Shane,
I don't know how that
I
works.
had a
Yeah.
very different idea on this. It's like, how you have a stock exchange where you go and list
Uh-huh.
yourself. Maybe there should be a exchange for NGO projects, or CSR projects, where you can
Yes.
buy shares as individual, as companies, and it is
Yeah.
listed. So, for example, if there's a hospital being built, and you buy, say, 100 shares of it, like how you get a shareholder report,
Exactly.
maybe, the exchange can send you a report saying this is the progress of your this, and instead of getting a equity back, or getting dividends back, you're
It
earning
churns into.
maybe some kind of
Yeah.
The
additional
social
style.
return on investment,
So,
SROI. Yeah.
isn't there
So,
something called a social stock exchange? I might be
no, no,
wrong.
no. There is a
There is some, that is
SROI.
a
There is
separate
not.
thing.
So, Tilak, when I had gone for the NASCOM meeting, when immediately when that, if you remember, in the middle, they had, said that the CFO is liable and it's a criminal thing for in case there is the amount is not spent, it becomes a criminal thing on this thing. So that time NASCOM had immediately called for multiple local meetings, and I was one of them in Pune. And that is what we were trying to say, that can a body like NASCOM, or can a body like any other organization, can they create some kind of a platform where, like,
They
yeah.
must.
So because unnecessarily say, so suppose I'm working with a school in silo. Suppose I'm working with a school in silo, and I think, okay, I'm doing this good for the school, but I don't know what that school is getting from somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So the Tata may be giving something, Birla may be giving something, and the school is taking everything and not really getting that kind of a
And
impact.
the moment you have this, then your branding problem is solved, because you will immediately have your brand ownership, which is restricted to the amount of shares you hold. So, for example, if I own 10% of the shares, my branding gets limited to 10% of it.
Great idea. I think we should be looking at exploring this
Yeah, seriously,
across
This
the
is
because
an
platform.
amazing idea.
because if the NGOs work towards the 17th SDG, I think we can change the picture of how things are happening right
And
now.
probably, the FICIs and CIIs of the world can
CCI,
come
yeah.
together and create something like this.
Yeah, exactly. Even the CII we had discussed. Even we, in a meeting with the CII also, this discussion had come. But I don't. In fact, even in the Indian Board of Directors, the people who do this Golden Peacock Awards.
Mhm.
So even the Indian Board of Directors, we had suggested that why don't we create some kind of a platform, because 55,000 crores are being spent every year in India through CSR money.
So
Can you
imagine if
believe
that money is
55,000 crores?
Even a small part of it is going.
And you know what happens? Because the corporates are sitting in the big cities or the big states, most of the money is being spent in those states, because I feel that if I'm spending money, I want visibility. But if an NGO body can create that kind of a platform, say,
Yeah.
that, okay, this is what we are doing and this is how you are going to get your return. So I think the corporates will start getting that comfort that, okay, I'm putting my money. 55,000 crores is not a small amount.
Mhm.
It's
So
like,
somewhere what
1/6 of
I get
our
a sense
GDP.
is, yeah, somewhere what I'm getting a sense is also a huge liability falls on the NGO to make that impact uh, reporting happen on a regular basis.
but that is
Once a corporate is sure of
Yeah,
getting that report, I'm sure they'll venture into something which is not within their local area constraint and move out into the deeper rural areas in India, invest
So
there
I'll tell
as
you
long as
what's
they're getting the
happening.
reports.
I'll tell you
I'll
where.
tell you what's happening, Mini. Right now, we are still, right now, the CSR concept is still evolving,
Very true.
right?
Yeah.
Because 2013, the law
13.
was passed. And that is when, so companies were doing good before that. I'm not saying they were not doing, but after 2013, it became like an eye opener saying that you have to do it. Now 2020 has become a mandate,
Yeah.
right? Now it's become a mandate. So now people cannot play around with the money that they were being like, doing earlier. So, so this is the right time when, as responsible bodies, as responsible, contributors, we can start thinking about the bigger picture. Why not, get the bigger picture and then start contributing towards that. Right now, we are just doing myopic contributions.
And I don't
Okay.
think anything more than ROI interests the corporates. I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's a emotional return, they want returns.
Yeah.
So
They want to, yeah.
they say we are investing, so we want return. I mean,
Yeah.
what is it that
And
I'm getting?
and the SROI, the social return
Social
on
return.
investment, that's a big component that NGOs can start displaying in their this thing. Because even today, frankly speaking, even today we are working with NGOs, but there are so many gray areas. There's so many gray areas because there is not so much of visibility into what exactly is happening. There is not, the NGOs are working hard. I'm not saying they're not working hard, but they themselves are going and hitting walls, because there are so many areas which are not yet, demarcated
Explore.
well. And they're not
Yeah.
demarcated well that, okay, this is the area that requires. For example, if I as a person, as an individual, I feel uh, teaching language is the biggest need of the hour in a country like India, right? Teaching language, because once a student is learning a language, the learning arena increases, but nothing much is being done in that area. Because I mean, there are so many things being done, but not being done with the focus. I hope you get the point, like, what I mean.
There would be there
No,
would be a lot
on
more
a
that
positive
is
note, I
being
think
done. Yeah.
Yeah,
at the
there's a
beginning,
lot more, but that
But
focus, that focus. So I'm like I'm saying again and again, I think the corporates and the NGOs are not on the same page, and that's where all this, like, um, uh, um, I mean, for my heart bleeds to think that 55 crores a year is not making a difference.
it will, it will.
It
it
will.
will, it will. And luckily, just to pitch in as an NGO, there are enough credible establishing bodies like GuideStar and all, who are giving out transparency certification to the NGOs, where the showcasing of the work is being done. And a lot of these platforms, and they're actually going out and reaching out to NGOs and collaborating with corporates to bring in the connect. And where you say there are some gray areas, we are moving towards removing them. It'll take time, because in the past 4-5 years, there's been a huge surge where I mean, there were all kinds of NGOs mushrooming all across the country. And today, there are you can actually talk about NGOs who are really doing good work and who are showcasing their work, or they are getting it showcased through different platforms. So I
Right.
think we are moving towards the positiveness. Yeah.
So Mini, what
So
I would like to say, like, in a platform where the corporates are there together with the NGOs, but the NGOs should definitely understand, that uh, the areas that they have already looked at, that they have already understood that this is what requires. You should always also understand that the corporates are looking for brand imaging and are looking for brand equity. So if once we understand the requirements of both the sides, I think a lot of good work can be done with a lot of solid impact.
Agree, agree.
I agree with you totally.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
has to be the two worlds coming together
Yeah,
and working
Immediately.
together.
because each one has got,
That
see, at the end of the day, the corporate is interested in their P&L, they're interested
they
in
are.
the shareholder value. The stakeholders are a number of stakeholders who are looking at the corporate for different reasons,
Yeah.
and the corporate cannot ignore that, right? So if an
Yeah.
NGO comes up to meets us halfway, nothing like it.
Yeah, I'm not. I totally agree on that. You know,
Yeah.
so it's walking the way together is what we
Exactly.
really need to do.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and we surely together
Absolutely.
can make a difference in the country.
And it has to be a relationship. It should not be.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's like, as you
Yeah.
are saying, the gray areas, the reports. It's like if you have to check your partner's phone to know whether that person is loyal to you, then there is a problem. It should be that
Absolutely.
It
there is
shouldn't
no
be.
report required. I mean, it should be like, you should be able to trust the other person completely.
And especially an
I
NGO,
think it
because
is also, yeah.
yeah, because at the
Sorry.
end of the day, an NGO is like an especially for a common man and the corporate, the NGO is like an icon, right? You are the one who has actually seen the ground reality and the ground problem, and you're working towards it, irrespective of who's there with you, right? You have started
Hmm.
walking. It's
Well, yeah.
now it's for the others to join you or not. So I mean,
You're also holding the image of the company's brand. If anything
Oh,
goes wrong with
yes.
you,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
you're part of the brand, so it kind of affects us. So
yeah. So it's a give and
that
take
is very
I
relationship.
mean, even NGOs actually not just holding their own flag and taking it forward. It's they're taking the flag of the
yes.
stakeholders who are working with
Stakeholder.
them.
So it's a
Yeah.
You know,
marriage. It's a
so
marriage.
it's a marriage, and I would actually
Also in
echo
the
that. Not just a marriage; it has to be a partnership and a collaborative way of working.
exactly, yes.
You know, it's
Maybe
not
all
कि funder हमें
maybe
पैसा दे रहा है हम काम कर रहे हैं. It's not.
maybe with the Saat Pheres and all that stuff.
But I think things are improving. I mean
Things are
Definitely.
improving a level lot.
yeah.
Things, I mean,
Took some
over the
time to
past few years, we've seen a drastic change in the way people are coming together to take it forward. So,
Absolutely.
hoping this continues.
Yeah.
That's
And these kind of
the
forums do help because, we are planting ideas, we are exchanging ideas, we are thinking about new things like I told you, CSR is evolving. So, of course, I think when we sum up, maybe the next question we can talk about it. But yeah, we'll come to that. And in the evolution, we need to walk together, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
going.
And I think this has been amazing. And I think it has been, like, the way you guys have exchanged your ideas and your perspectives, it has been quite an insightful webinar. Thank you so much. We have crossed our time. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take the Q&A session. But volunteers, sorry, participants, we will be sharing a feedback form with you all. You can please post your questions there, and we will be happy to address them offline. Again, thank you so much for joining today's session. The panelists as well. Also, if you all are interested in organizing any kind of employee volunteering engagements, or need assistance in creating a virtual ecosystem at your organization, please reach out to us, and we will be happy to organize the same for you all and cater to your needs. Also understanding from first understanding the requirements of the NGOs and then sharing it with you all. So that's what ConnectPod does also, understanding the NGOs needs first and then putting it across to the corporates.
Thank you so
So
much.
as
Somebody
Shireen
asked
said,
me for the CyberSmart portal. So I have
yeah,
put the link in the chat box. If anybody wants it, they can pick it up from there.
yes,
And of course, if you
Yeah.
want to reach out to us, maybe
Yeah.
Aarti, you can maybe
yes,
share an email or something. And if
yes,
any of the NGOs want to reach out, and we can see,
definitely,
how we can work together.
Or maybe you
yes.
can send it to Aarti. She can maybe send it to us, and we can
Yeah,
either whatever Aarti is comfortable.
Yeah.
however it's.
Definitely. You can reach out to me and I can share
Yeah.
your
We
email
would love
ID.
it because we've seen 30 people sitting and listening to us, and it was very sweet of all of you. And I'm sure all of you must have had a lot of questions, which we would love to answer, and we
Yeah.
would love to stay connected.
Definitely.
And I too
Oh,
will be reaching out to both of you.
Absolutely, Mimi. Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
was always the student who asked a lot of questions, so I can
You
expect
can wait.
a lot of stuff like that.
No, but Aarti, it'll be great if you can just share the questions related to us and we can,
Definitely. I will.
and also any resources that have been shared on the chat box.
Yes.
Uh,
Also,
all, benefit from it.
Yeah, all corporate organizations who have joined our call today, we do have volunteering opportunities on our platform that employees can be a part, can volunteer for, specifically for COVID relief, and the way, like any ways they can help during this time. So you all can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help you out there. Thank you so much.